What's the difference between a pantomime villain and a real, normal theatre villain? It's an interesting one. I'm finding out for the first time. This is my first pantomime baddie I'm playing. I think one of the things I'm finding out about Ebenezer is that he's quite vulnerable, really. He's playing up. He plays a huge character. He thinks he's the best magician ever. His ambitions are on a similar scale, that he wants to rule the world and defeat everybody else. Rule every inch of the land, he says. But actually he's got some not so quiet secret fears about, doesn't like loud bangs and flashes. So the bangs and flashes he makes are on a very small scale, but when they happen on a bigger scale because of the genie or the ring and spirit of the ring, he gets a little frightened, and he's also a little bit frightened of spiders and creepy ghoulies. Creepy ghoulies? Creepy ghoulies. It's that kind of show. Creepy ghoulies. Creepy crawlies and the ghoulies. Yeah.
And that sort of contradiction between somebody who thinks they're wonderful but has a vulnerability in that space, that's where the comedy is, because the character can explore the nature of sort of being bravura and showy, but then the moment, you know, is punctured, he deflates and becomes hilarious, especially when he has to dance.
Oh yes. Oh, that could be his final punishment if he was ever to dance professionally. Let's see what happens. I think the threat gets made at some point. Yeah, I mean, he wants to be. He probably wants to be the best dancer as well. He certainly wants to be the best actor in the world. He thinks himself born to the stage, and we've gone for this kind of character who's a Victorian showman, almost like a, what would you call him, sort of master of cabaret.
Yeah, sort of MC ringmaster.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Borrowed from Victorian style, really, so slightly white face and top hat and cane.
And that's because Ebenezer in the original story comes from a completely different place to all the other characters within the story. In the original text, he's a Middle Eastern character, whereas the story takes place in the Far East. So for our version, which takes place in Old Peking, circa 1972, we've taken the character of Ebenezer and made him, you know, sort of from 1890, London almost. Yeah, so you get this real sense of him coming from another world.
Although with a little nod to the 70s, he's got some skin-tight jeans and aviator specs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's great. It's great fun to do, to play a character of that kind of size and scale, and, as I said, ambition. It just means that you can really reach for the stars, and nobody on earth is going to stop you. That's really great fun. I think most real villains are a little subtler about what they really want to do and don't announce it regularly to the world. It's quite fun to play with Ebenezer because his voice is one of an actor, so you might say he sleeps on the hook at night, speaks rather like that, pushing his voice out as far as it would go. It's all done. It's done with a spell. So when he speaks simply, he's got quite normal flat vowels on all sorts of different voices that he can produce magically. I think that's the idea.